unhelpful behaviour is just a form of language. Children are just expressing things to us that they can't express through words, often because it's an emotion, it's a feeling that they can't put a name to, or they can't deal with it themselves. So what it does is it manifests negative. Understanding what's being communicated is fundamental to being able to change it. So, for example, if a child is really angry, it's usually an expression of a fear of loss. Anger comes from a place of a fear when you're going to lose out on a toy, or you're going to lose out on a friendship, or you're going to lose out on a situation you had control, but then you're going to lose it, or you think you're going to lose it. Or you might even lose face. It might just be about embarrassment. And children's brains are hardwired for self-protection. You know, they're born with a kind of inbuilt self-protection kit. And so children are very, very sensitive to this losing control. And the moment that the child feels like they're losing control, their brain saturates with something called cortisol. And cortisol in the brain, it gets to a point where the child can't hear and can't actually think clearly, or once their brain is completely suffused with it. And for a child, those neural pathways develop super quick with cortisol, which is why you see a child go from 0 to 100, which is why they flip, literally. 1 minute they're fine and the next minute they're not. And that is in direct response to that threat of something being taken away from them, whatever that situation is. And so we have to kind of recognize that when they are in that moment of anger, they're actually feeling a huge amount of stress and sadness and loss. And the last thing that needs to happen is for us to lose it too. Because if they see us as the person that is reliable and is the person that they can trust and knows how to do everything, if we then, they just, in their moment of panic, they look and they see you having a panic, actually everything just goes through the roof, which is why we end up with this dreadful spiral of tension. So understanding what you're seeing actually is really helpful to helping us react in a more appropriate way. Children who are disobedient often are expressing the fact that the task that you've set them, or the situation that they find themselves in, is just too difficult for them to deal with. That's often what's going on. Or they think it's too difficult for them to deal with. They think they can't do it. And it's quite often related to a sense of self-esteem or a sense of self-worth, where they think, actually, I'm not good enough at this. I'm going to look a fool. And it might be mixed with that fear of loss. I'm going to lose face here. So sometimes children's disobedience is actually not, it's not about being naughty. It's actually about being very uncomfortable. And again, if we can see that, then we can help them through it rather than chastise them for just feeling something that's very honest and vulnerable. Fighting, that's another one. Fighting often presents for a variety of reasons. But again, sometimes it's to do with, I'm about to lose something. They go into the fight or flight mode. So they choose to fight. So they end up in this angry moment, hitting people that they don't really mean to hit. Sometimes it's about a jealousy, which again is about losing face, or it's a sense of self-worth. They're trying to rebalance their sense of self-worth in the situation. And sometimes it's about copying behaviours on TV, you know, superhero, but then again, that's attached to self-worth. I'm not the hero, but I want to be one. So we see all sorts of behaviour which is trying to tell us, this is a big red flag. And as I say, the minute they see us be angry about it, it really is not helpful in the situation. But communication is a kind of two-way process, isn't it? So they're communicating with us, and we're the adults in the game, and we've got to ask ourselves at those moments, what are we doing in those situations that helps create that unhelpful behaviour? It's either something that we're doing or it's something that we're not doing. So let's think about, you know, when a child, the way a child lives, the environment that they experience, and we've talked about environments before, influences the behaviour that they're exerting. And as a child gets older, they they have the opportunity to experience many more environments. So when they're little, they're at home and maybe preschool. But as they get older, they go to tennis, they go to clubs, they go to friends' houses. They have all these different places, different environments. And each one of those environments offers them an opportunity to try on a bit of a different behaviour. And it's the inconsistency of those, environments that challenges the children. Because what they have to do when they go to those different places without us, sometimes with us, but also without us as they get older, they have to engage in emotional and self-control. And this is at the root of what we would term bad behaviour. It's all self-control. So a real extreme example, and Martin was giving some good examples of kind of extreme behaviour in kids. We've got a lot of evidence that children more and more are struggling with self-management in schools. We've got teachers excluding children at school, some as young as primary school age, just because they're exerting behaviours which are either unmanageable, disruptive, persistently disruptive, or completely inappropriate. And what all of those children are saying is, I can't manage myself. I can't do this. They are the extreme examples, and of course there's a lot, on that spectrum that sits somewhere in the middle, which are also really struggling to control themselves, but we just don't have it loudly in our faces. So let's just jump back to last week, when we were thinking about how children are hardwired to want to lead, to want to problem solve, to want to make decisions, or in short, they want to be in control. It's perfectly normal. We want them to be those things. We want them to be successful, because if they don't succeed in gaining the control, then they're not going to be successful adults. So the trick is to get them from this place where they have little control of themselves, but they want to control the situation, all the way through to they want to control and they can control and make some great decisions. So it's our job to teach them how to self-moderate in those different environments. But they do need us as parents to help. There's no doubt they can't do it on their own. Yeah. And we see that in permissive parenting. When parents don't put any rules and they think they can do everything and anything, then they can't learn to moderate. They don't bump up against any boundaries until they get to social boundaries, and they're in prison because they broke the rules. So to save them from that awful fate, we need to step in, and we need to, as parents, understand that the base of self-control is trust. They cannot control themselves or begin to control themselves unless they trust everything that we say. Yeah. From the beginning. If we say that something's going to happen, it needs to happen, which is why that consistency, the face, the body, the language, the tone, that everything has to match. Everything that, when we put the routines in place, it all has to go together. It's the trust in the situation that allows them to be possibly vulnerable. The minute they feel vulnerable but they can't trust the people around them, they go into fight or flight mode. And that's not where we want them to be. So setting up those routines and setting up those boundaries is absolutely critical. Next, we need to model, and Teuta was talking about this, and in feedback you've all said it too, we need to model the emotional regulation that we have. If we go around losing our tempers, as I say, if we have the meltdown, well, please expect them to have one too. Do join in, kids, Yeah. And the thing about it is that we can teach, so that when the brain just very naturally floods with this cortisol in this flight or flight mode, children's brains are kind of, very super malleable in the early days. They're setting up neural connections from the moment they're born, millions, billions of them. And then they delete the ones which we don't use very often. But the ones we use on a regular basis become they're the go-to places for the brain. The brain likes to have the routine too. And so the more we allow them to have the hoo-has and the fits and the tantrums, and the more we show them that, the more the brain will just, that's my go-to place. The more we allow them to be calm, that will become their go-to place. Those neural pathways will be that bit slower to react in those stressful situations for them. So really important that we model that regulation. And teaching the power of choice is so empowering. You know, we go back to this wonderful limited menu, but when children want control, right from the get-go, I had Margaret in the group, her granddaughter's only 2. She's already choosing. She can choose between this and me, and she's making good choices. And this really empowers children hugely. And the 4th thing that we need to do is we need to help our children build their identity, because it's about that self-control and identity that allow children to be self-regulating. It's about the identity and being able to make good choices that allows children to be self-regulating. Having that confidence about who I am, I'm Nicola and I do these things. So, and I can make good choices. And because I'm confident about that, that allows me to be quite calm in a situation. The minute I don't know, the minute I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough, and who am I, and am I supposed to be this person? The minute all those questions run through my mind, the minute I lose it. It's really interesting. I tutor endless children at all sorts of levels, and I have lots of children who are brilliant, absolutely fantastic, fantastic brains, but they have brains that talk to them. We all have brains that talk to them, but they listen to the chat. And they sit there, and because they're children, their mouths open and they say it out loud, and they go, oh, I can't do this, I'm rubbish at this. And I say, yeah, you will be. Yeah, you're not going to do this one then. Skip to the next one. Because all the time you sit there and tell yourself that, that's all you can hear. Yeah. Change the question, change the statement, and then start on a more positive note. So helping children build their identity by asking them, you notice that, let's say, for example, they like the football or crafts or whatever. Make an observation. Oh, you seem to really enjoy your crafts. So you obviously really seem to be quite good at the football. This starts to build them a kind of internal questioning path about, yeah, actually, I'm quite good at that. This is the start of them building their self-identity, when they start to see themselves as a something in the world, that they can see themselves good at this, maybe okay at that, gaining skills in another way. So really important that they can see who they are, because self-control is driven by the self. This bit is fundamental, and Valbona and I were talking about it just a few minutes ago. So when a child makes choices, he is making choices internally. He or she is making the choice. It is not forced from the outside. And when that child makes that choice, they commit to it because they chose it. This is self-discipline, and that's the bit that motivates them to go on and be committed to the thing that they said they wanted. They might get up down the road and say, you know what, that wasn't such a good choice. But when children have chosen something, when children want something, then they will be motivated to carry on and see it through. And that feeling is so empowering. And that's what we want. We want children to feel responsible for the choices they make. Feel proud. Yeah, I chose that. I had all these choices. I chose that, and it was a good choice. I liked it. And that fits with who I am. I'm Nicola, and I'm a great footballer, and I chose to go to football over tennis, and I'm really happy with those choices. And now, because I know I'm a great footballer and I chose to go to football practice, I get up every Saturday. I don't need my mum to go and shovel me out the bed. I don't need to be bribed. Come on, darling, you know you'll like it when you get there. No, because I've chosen it. I want it. And that's self-motivation, the stuff that's happening inside. That's the thing that you want to give your children. And as I say, I tutor huge amounts of children. I can't tell you how many kids I get. One of my first questions is, I interview them, work out whether we've got some chemistry, we're going to work together. I say, why am I here? What do you think I can do for you? And if they say to me, I don't know, my mum bought you. You come on, she's got you. I say, in that case, I don't think you really want this. and I have to go and work with children who want stuff, and I'm not going to be here. Because for your mum to want it, oh, that's great. It's not, mum, I'm going to go to that school. If you don't want to go to that school, let's just not waste anyone's time or money. So the children who want it, I hardly have to do anything. I have to show them the direction. I have to show them some techniques, and woof, they're there. And so this is what, you know, when I have parents that come to me because they've got battles with their children saying, oh, he won't do this, he won't do his homework. I say, then don't make him. Ask him, you know, who is he? Is he the boy that doesn't do homework? Does he know what the consequence of that is? Is he making that decision? Is that the decision he'd like to make? Because you know what, that homework will be out that bag and on the table being done before you know it, but without the fight, because he has to understand it's his responsibility. And that's really important. And I think for many of our young people, they lose their way because they honestly truly think that somebody else has the responsibility of making them happy, of sorting out their job, sorting out their life, sorting out their problems. And when they don't do it satisfactorily, it makes them angry. Of course it does. But it's our job as parents, through love and kindness, to give them their own responsibility, allow them to have that space. That's exactly what they want, and that's exactly what they deserve. They should have it. It's mean of us to say, no, 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 you sit back, I'm going to run your life for you. We mean it out of love when we do that, but it's not kind, really. So, and this is why, for me, and I'll go back to what Martin was saying when he talks about he's had a bad day, I totally agree with him. He needs time to think about what went on there. What was he saying? What was his role in that? He needs, what he said to me, I wrote it down. He said he wants to deal with the situation to know how to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect, because you want him to own it. He might need our support to do that. He might need to trust us. That was another word he was talking about, that he wanted trust to come into it. And that's exactly what he deserves, our trust. And we need to give him enough courage to make the decisions he wants to make. But it is his decision about how he wants to fix it. What will happen next time was one of the things he said. You know, so this is why when situations go wrong and the child's done something that we think is not the helpful behaviour, we shouldn't punish. We talked about this last week. We should be thinking about how we can help teach the child to make a different decision next time. That's what we should be doing. And we might not be liking the actual behaviour at that moment, but allowing the child to own the behaviour is the critical bit. So I would say, don't punish, but allow the child to work out what they can do about it. Put the power back in their hands, but it's a mess and they need to fix it. And in the same manner, I would never say to a parent to bribe their child, to do the, you know, external coercion. Oh, come on, if you do this, I'll let you have 3 hours on Fortnite, or, you know, 3 hours on the PlayStation. Children should do it because they want to do it. When children do it because you want them to do it, they're doing you a favour, and now you owe them. And that's not the position a parent should be in. You don't owe your children for kindnesses. You want to give them anyway. What you owe them is opportunity to stand on their own 2 feet, have enough control in their life that they can fix those problems. So that's parental input, quite a lot of it. But we need to be able to also create environments. So that's also our job. So just as you've also been saying as feedback, those environments have got to be the calm home, get organised, get your routines in place, limit the number of extracurricular activities, all those enrichment activities. I don't know how many homes I go to, and it's like, well, we can squeeze you in. There's a half hour on Thursday night between 8 and 9 because they've got tennis and cricket and dancing and music and 52,000 things, because the parents have got this fear that this child is going to miss out on being the next superstar. So they have them signed up to everything. This is just creates fry of the brain. The poor child is like absolutely absolutely buzzing. So tone it down. Allow the child to tell you what they fancy. If a child's going to be a dancer, they'll come back and ask you, can I have dance lessons? If a child wants to play a musical instrument, they'll come back and ask you. You do not need to sign them up to everything going. Number 2, allow your children to plan their play. Parents now, I'll arrange a play day. Oh, you're not going to play there. I'll tell you where you can play. I'll tell you what you can play. Allow your children to play. I would say technology. But if they plan their play, who they're going to play with, who they like to play with, there's chances that they're going to have a better set of social skills because they want to interact with those children. That want has got to come from inside, not I like Sebastian, so you come and play with him because he's a nice child. We don't like this child over here, don't play with him. No, allow those children to kind of make the bonds and make an understanding of life for themselves. And lastly, create a sense of community. Doing chores inside a house, being part of the home team makes you part of the family. That's a really important, we talked about this before, it's about family cohesion. It's about who we are as a team and who you are in that team. And so having chores to do, laying the table makes you a very important person. Making sure the washing machine's on a Friday, so we've all got football kit for the weekend or whatever it is. Yeah, all those things really important. So I think it's kind of ironic. I've just given parents the biggest ton of jobs, and actually we're talking about children developing. But it is important that we sort of sit behind them while we allow that space for our children to grow. So I think that's a huge amount to take in. So what I've tried to do is put that onto a slide, which hopefully will just be about, I think it's about 6 bullet points big. So we can just kind of rethink what was it we've just gone through this week, because change in behaviour is a really big topic and it's not impossible to do. It's quite easy to do, but I think we do need some kind of framework and structure to put our behaviour as parents and hopefully change the behaviour of the children within it. So Teuta, are you happy to go through the slide and just kind of bullet points through what it is we've just been outlining today? Thanks.
Firstly, I want you to know that you are an amazing parent as you are right now. Be proud of yourself as parenting and be grateful to yourself that you've been doing the best that you could. However, if you find like that you need to change the behavior change, and if you want to go forward and change the behavior issue that I have for my child, but all you have to do, like, forgive yourself and move on. By what those bullet points that understand the behavior as a communication. Use the 3 pillars of parenting in various ways to reshape the behavior. Remember, consistency creates trust. Model emotions regulation, as Nicola was mentioning, opposite to renewal pathways in anger. Teach the power of choice. Help build the child's identity. That's what drives self-control. Create an environment that promotes self-management behavior.